Hey friends, thanks for tuning in for yet another adventure. I hope you all having a wonderful day, but today's little journey is going to be the Fantasy Character Trope Tag. And I saw this recently over at Hugo's channel, definitely go check out his video. But I figured since my channel is mainly centered around kind of fantasy and sci-fi, I had to do this tag, and somehow I managed to find only fantasy and sci-fi books, a little magical realism mixed in there a little bit, but it's kind of centered around some fantasy characters and kind of recommending books based on some questions. So let's hop in with question number one. Question number one is the chosen one, and that is a book you recommend to everyone. And to begin with, I gotta go with just one that is very underrated in my opinion. Among booktube, it's slowly starting to gain hype, and you've seen me talk about it a ton on this channel, and that is going to be Fireborn by Rosaria Munda. The second book just came out, and it was great as well. But this one, if you haven't heard about it, definitely check it out. It's got a Dragon Academy centered around kind of like the events of the Russian Revolution, kind of inspired about that. The author Rosaria kind of Mundra said that just imagine kind of the Russian Revolution with just dragons, and it's got these two different perspectives, Annie and Lee, kind of learning their way in this Dragon Academy, and it is a great time. And I love the series, and I'm patiently waiting for the third and final book, and I am anxious to see where it goes. And another two that I always am recommending is either Uprooted by Naomi Novik or Spinning Silver by her as well. Both of them I feel like are very great fairy tale retellings that aren't well known. And I loved kind of just the take that she took with them. And I love them, and I'm always recommending them. And you've heard me talk about this a lot on my channel as well. Next up is The Secret Heir, and that is a book that surprised you. And I have to give it to The Library of Legends by Janie Chang. I feel like this one isn't talked about very much either. But this is kind of like a historical fiction mixed with like some little magical realism elements mixed in. But it is centered around these Chinese kind of university students that are fleeing their kind of university from the events of kind of Japanese invasion in that kind of war of, I can't remember, it was like the 1930 something. But there it kind of follows their journey as they are kind of fleeing the university into the countryside. But they are having to kind of take along with them this magical kind of library of legends, and as they go along, just these stories in the legends kind of come alive, and as you kind of read more about it, just the legends kind of play a little bit of a bigger role, and kind of you get their perspective. And I thought that the writing style was very descriptive and made the kind of just the journey both scary and kind of heartwarming to see just everything that kind of went on with the stories. But I really enjoyed this, and I don't think it's talked about enough. Next up is The Evil Overlord, and that is a book that was poorly executed, and I have to give it to, sadly, Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell, which was one of my most anticipated releases for this year. And I plan on kind of rereading it because I think I might have read it at a kind of a difficult time with school. But everything I was just disappointed with. I expected kind of like a giant sci-fi space battles, but it was mostly kind of just a space opera kind of mystery where these two characters are having to kind of solve a murder mystery, and there's kind of just a lot of political intrigue and plots going on, and I just wasn't on board with just a lot of things going on, and sadly it really let me down. But other than that, I can't really think of anything else. But like I said, I plan on rereading this because a lot of people, for some reason, or not for some reason, if you like this, there's nothing wrong with it, but a lot of people have kind of gave positive reviews for it. So maybe I read it at the wrong time, but you never know. So I'll give it another try. Next up is The Reluctant Hero, and that is a book you're not sure you want to read. And I'm going to give it to Fate of the Fallen by Kel Cade. I love the cover, and that's what initially drew me to it, because this dude's carrying a giant axe. And if the character's got like a trident or a giant axe, like, I'm going to buy the book. I don't know what it is about those weapons, but I gotta have one of those one day. But I haven't heard very good things about this book. Like, it's very kind of on the lower rating from what I've seen. but it sounds very interesting because it sounds like it takes kind of like the spin on the chosen one trope and kind of that kind of sense. But other than that, like I have no idea what's going on, so I'm reluctant to pick it up. But it is very short compared to a lot of other sci-fi. We are not sci-fi, fantasy. We all know how they can get pretty big. Sanderson, I'm talking about you. But yeah, I think it's just hard to tell. I will eventually get to it, but it's not on the top of my list. Next up is the Lucky Novice, and that is a great debut. And the first one I'm going to give it to is the Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. I thought this world was very interesting, and just for a debut novel, like there was a lot of things going on that it didn't feel like it was a debut at all. But just the world in general is kind of fascinating. Like Decca is kind of, there's a ceremony that goes on where you basically are cut, and then whether your blood runs red or gold kind of determines your fate. And just if it runs red, then you're kind of allowed to be a person, essentially. Like all the women have to go through this, and before this ceremony, they're just kind of looked down upon. But after the ceremony, they can finally get married and kind of have a job if their blood runs red. But if their blood runs gold, then they're basically sentenced to death. But this one witch kind of comes to Decca after her blood runs gold and offers her a position in her army to kind of fight these mysterious blood shrieks. And she kind of takes that offer. So I thought just like everything going on was very interesting. It's got a training academy and kind of the journey of watching Decca grow with these other kind of people that are similar and just watching their growth. So it's very training academy heavy. And it kind of got a little bit redundant in the kind of middle of the story, kind of going on different raids but other than that, like it wasn't that bad for a debut novel, so definitely check that out. Another one is Ray Bear by Jordan Fueko. I think that is another great example of just another kind of really interesting fantasy world, but a lot of people have talked about that, so definitely check that one out as well. Next question is The Mentor, and that is a book that is formative to your life, and I couldn't just choose one, but the first one, if you know me on this channel, I have to include it. It's just the Percy Jackson series. They're one of the first series that I actually got into when I was really young, and it introduced me just to mythology and just the love for fantasy, and that was what really did it. And I think that is just, after that I was just in love with reading fantasy and mythology, and it has not stopped to this day. I can't decide whether I like this series or the Heroes of Olympus out of all of his books that I've read so far. I think the Heroes of Olympus might take it because it kind of includes a lot more characters in it, and I love that. Another one is going to go to An Ember in the Ashes by Secret Heir. A lot of people have talked about this, and for good reason, because it's great. But everything about it I was on board with. This was another series. This was probably like the first YA series that I really got into, and I started reading it last year, and I binged the whole series because once I read this first one, like I was in love with everything going on. Just kind of like the Roman setup. I just can't say enough great things about it. It's some of the best reading I've had, and I really want to reread it very soon. And the last one, I have to give it to Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. This, I don't know what, it covered a lot of interesting topics, and I think after reading this, I made it a goal that I was never going to get rid of books, because if you've read it, you know why. After this, like, I was protective of all of my books, and I just thought that this world was very interesting, and kind of the topics covered were just very formative to my life. So I think this will always kind of be with me. And the last question is The Animal Companion, and that is a book that made you happy or sad. And the first one, actually both of these managed to do both throughout. And the first one is going to be Project Hail Mary. It is great. There are great heartwarming kind of aspects to it, as well as heartbreaking elements. And this is probably my favorite out of all of the kind of Andy Weir different sci-fi works. And the other one, talked about it a ton, is Spinning Silver. I think this one kind of made me more happy. It was heartbreaking to kind of see their situation and kind of see how their kind of the decisions that they have to make, and just the kind of the hatred that some of the characters are kind of dealt with really kind of made me sad, but just the found family aspects and kind of just the journey that they go through was very heartwarming, and it warmed my heart up during the winter when I was snowed in. I was warmed up by just the kind of topics covered in these, but definitely these two managed to do both. But that's all for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you check out some of these books, the underrated ones, for sure. Definitely give them a try. Let me know your answers to any of these questions. What are some characters that you can come up with, or books that you can come up with, some tropes? But other than that, I hope you'll have a splendid day, and I'm going to leave you with a message from Ellie, as always, that adventure is out there. So I'll catch you next time. Bye.